All right, my friends, welcome to episode 110 of Prof and Dev Play Games. I am the Professor Larry at Prof Plays Games on Twitter, and that is Anthony at SummerSpeak on Twitter. Before we get into the whole rigmarole of our wonderful podcast, I want to say congratulations to the Houston Astros, and I very much hope that you beat the hated Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series.
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Talking about sport ball.
I know they're baseball teams, but I don't follow it. So
we definitely watch every single game of the playoffs, and usually every single game.
The playoffs are going on right now?
Oh my God, yes.
I'm not, which is funny because based on my Twitter feed and my Facebook feed, I did not know that this was the case.
Yeah, the playoffs just ended. We're going to the World Series on Tuesday. But we watch every single game of the playoffs, and of course during the regular season we try to watch as many Padres and Giants games as possible. So I spend a lot of time listening to podcasts, and I spend like quadruple the time watching baseball. So definitely a pastime of ours. So yeah, they won tonight. They beat the hated Yankees, which is great. So it should be fun.
Can be okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't even follow it, and I know that beating the Yankees is a good thing.
Yeah. Sorry, Yanks.
It's like beating the Patriots.
Yeah, I hate the Patriots too. Oh my God. Except I don't feel like the Yankees are cheaters. The Patriots are cheaters.
It's true.
Brady guy.
I don't like the Cowboys either.
Nah, not really.
I mean, growing up a 49er fan, that's not shocking to me. Like,
no, it's instilled
let's bring
in us.
on hate the Cowboys, hate the Packers. Yeah,
I don't hate the Packers. I like Aaron Rodgers.
Packers, I have more now. I don't care, but they were back through the 90s.
Yeah, with Favre.
I mean, they were pretty much the go-to team against the Niners. It was them in the playoffs most years. One of them was going to get the other one knocked out. So it's not like a hatred. I don't like I actually hate the Cowboys. The Packers I actually have a decent amount of respect for now, but I'm never going to root for them.
Yeah, I definitely like the Aaron Rodgers Packers, and I like that in their free time they often play Settlers of Catan, which is pretty fun.
That is, yeah.
And they're the only publicly owned football team too. Yeah,
that was another reason I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then speaking of nerds on football teams, I'm pretty sure a Seahawks player plays Magic. Something that came out. I think it was like a year and a half ago. He got his collection stolen.
Oh, that sucks.
And the community and Wizards of the Coast and everyone replaced it for him because he was super sad because that's what he would do. I think there was a couple people on the team that would play, and they would do it between practices and just kind of to chill out.
Did someone on the team steal it? Or
no, his car got someone broke into wherever they were and took him.
Yeah.
So he was very sad.
Cool. Well, one of these days we'll have to have a spin-off sports ball podcast, but until then, we're here talking about video games, and we're going to talk about another topic du jour. Just lit the internet on fire, and no, it's not about NeoGAF imploding. It is about...
Is NeoGAF imploding?
Oh, yeah.
I don't visit NeoGAF anymore, but we should get to our topic. But
yeah, at some point in this podcast, just go to NeoGAF and see what you see. Yeah, it's not there. So we are talking about Soderling and EA and Visceral and Amy Hennig, and the fact that, I just want you to start by reading the statement, and then we'll just unpack it.
This was on October 17th, so Tuesday. This statement came out from Patrick Soderlund of EA. Throughout the development process, we have been testing the game concept with players, listening to the feedback about what and how they want to play, and closely tracking fundamental shifts in the marketplace. It has become clear that to deliver an experience that players will want to come back to, and to enjoy for a long time to come, we need to pivot the design. Insert eye roll there. We will maintain the stunning visuals, authenticity in the Star Wars universe, and focus on bringing a Star Wars story to life. Importantly, we are shifting the game to a broader experience that allows for more variety and player agency, leaning into the capabilities of our Frostbite engine and reimagining central elements of the game to give players a Star Wars adventure of greater depth and breadth to explore.
So, I might have missed it in that paragraph. Did he mention the single player experience linear thing? I didn't even mention that.
It wasn't in the initial. I think they might have said something later about it.
Yeah, there's another paragraph too that says that the project was turning into a linear.
Wasn't turning into. That's what they greenlit.
Well, I know, but the way
they brought Amy Hennig on, they wanted Uncharted in Star Wars. I worked at EA when this was going down, at least in somewhat. this was a thing that they wanted to make back 3 years ago. So
when they see all the money that's coming in from microtransactions and Destiny, basically they want to do a Destiny Star Wars.
I guess
thing,
it would
right?
be something like that. I mean, well, maybe. I actually just think they wanted open world. They want bigger, the broader experience. They want a game that people will feel like they want to keep coming back to in some way, as opposed to, well, let's go through the Uncharted games. Those are great. They do great. They do great money. So when did multiplayer show up? 2?
Uncharted.
Or was it 3?
I thought it was 3. Maybe it's 2. But yeah, that's they put that in there so that you don't return the game and
so
sell
yeah,
that,
you have
right?
something to do with it. Which sure, but clearly like 4 is especially. I mean, there's the whole multiplayer with 4, and there's crates and things to unlock and microtransactions.
Right.
It's pretty light, honestly. And I still feel like most people just play Uncharted for the story and are done with it, which is fine. But it's definitely a thing where I would say now, how much do you think about going back and playing Uncharted 4? Or previous? Exactly.
So, I mean, I went back and played the standalone DLC, so I gave another $40 for that. But once I finished that, I'm also done with that, And if I had, I think normal players, if I had it on disc, I might consider turning it back in to get some money back to buy something else, which means someone else can buy it used. And I'm done interacting with that. They get my $40 and that's it. Where they're trying to, get people to engage with the game for far longer and continue to give them money.
And EA is honestly their game that's trying to match Destiny is Anthem.
Right. So if they have a game like Anthem, why would they want to turn this one into a game like Destiny / Anthem?
Because it's already costing probably a ton of money, and they want return on investment. And the single player games don't. Honestly, like, let's take Uncharted. Like, it probably cost, I don't know how much it actually cost. We'll say 100 million plus or minus 25 million.
Okay.
Seems about right. It might be a little bit cheaper because of internal Sony and, like, the team was, I don't know how big Naughty Dog is team-wise, but I'll just throw that number out. It's not a true number, but that's a good estimate. They probably spent an equal amount of money on marketing, so they need to make that money back. And Uncharted, I think I can look at the sales, made money back. Now,
I think it sold 6 million.
That game had like tons of microtransactions in it. Think of the return of investment for a publisher on that. So it's definitely one of these things where the budgets are getting higher for these games.
Yep.
But the money that they get isn't really... But the revenues aren't really going up nearly as fast as the budget's going up proportionally.
Right, especially if it's a game where you buy once and you're done. Yeah. So in the statement where he says, in its current form, it was shaping up to be a story-based linear adventure game. And you said, well, that's what they signed them up for, which is true. And that's when they signed them up for it in 2013. So 4 years later...
They're like, no, they do.
We've seen the equivalent of like a GIF of that game.
Yeah.
We've
seen like
anything,
2 different clips, like small, 5-10 second clips. That's it.
So that says to me, I don't know shit about game development, that they are way far behind.
They're either far behind or they were... I don't think it's far behind. Beyond that aspect of like wanting probably some game that would just keep players engaged longer.
Right.
There's probably something to be said that the game was a mess to begin with.
Right.
Like,
well, and
this is not salvageable. Like, in any way, we have to just toss it.
Well, it's a spiritual successor to 1313, which was also followed this similar track, right? So
it kind of did. That was when it's hard to say what was going on with 1313 because that was also when Disney Lucasfilm was shutting down LucasArts completely. Right. They just were jettisoning all of LucasArts, and they're like, we don't care.
It's the last chapter in the book that I sent you, the Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. It lays it up pretty clearly that whole, like, when that LucasArts stuff was going down, they basically froze everything.
Yeah.
And then shut it down eventually. They were just in stasis for a year and a half, something like that.
So it's a different thing. I don't think Visceral Star Wars game was in stasis. I just have a feeling that was just not beyond the money piece and just one time get through linear single player stories with budgets like that not being the most viable for big publishers.
Right.
It likely just was having serious problems. If They started pre-production in 2013. We've seen a little bit by now. Like, if it was going to come out, they said 2019 was the release date.
That's right. That's another 2 more years of that much money being
basically,
poured
they're at the point now with most games where they would now be, we know exactly what the game is.
Yep.
We have a vertical slice. You can play through a small chunk of the game that it shows off everything that we want to do. Now we spend 2 years to, build the rest of the game. But we have our foundation. This says to me that the foundation was not solid.
Right. Well, it makes me think that, sign them up in 2013. If there was like a 3-year dev cycle, which I think is probably too short for this type of game, like they might have said, okay, let's release it because I think a 3-year investment to put out this game, they might have been able to recoup it. But to have, was that 6 years by the end of it for a single player game where it's $60 and that's it? There's not a lot of chance to recoup that money, I think. So, I mean, from a business standpoint, it totally makes sense to me. For kind of what set the world on fire, I thought this week was that one line about the linear adventure game, and people were just, I think, overreacting and saying it's like the death of the single player game.
It's the death of the single player at big AAAs. Like, I don't think you'll see linear single player focused games out of Activision and EA, really.
Yeah. I think that might be true. It blows my, not really blows my mind, but it's interesting that reaction in 2017 where we've had Horizon Zero Dawn, Prey, Resident Evil 7, Fractured But Whole, Shadow of War. Cuphead doesn't really count because indie,
Shadow of War, they at least are trying with the microtransactions.
They are, but it's primarily a single player game.
It is.
Uncharted Lost Legacy. What else do we have here? Obviously the Nintendo games, Evil Within, Assassin's Creed Origins, Ghost Recon, which could be single player.
And I would say some of those could probably fit a lot better because they don't have these as insane of budgets. Some do, some don't.
Right.
Like,
well,
I feel like in some ways they're scoped better for.
Right.
We're making a single player game that you buy one time and are done with. How much should we budget for that?
Exactly. And I think that's what a lot of the conversation this week has been focused around. Like perhaps the indies will step into that space only because they might have a better scoped budget. And I think people were talking specifically about some of the Bethesda games or even Nier, where the budget is smaller, so they're able to recoup their money better. So something like this, the EA has to pay for the licensing plus everything else, so it just seems like the budget balloons over the years.
It does. Like the teams tend to be way bigger than they need to be in EA, from my experience. From my small experience at PodCap. And I mean, when you talk about a Bejeweled game having a team of 40 people, why?
Right.
Why does a PvZ card game have a team of, like, what peaked at 45? Right. Like, this is not... There's bloat. There just is. Like, there's definitely intrinsically being there. You always felt like there was. If we just put more people on it, it will be done faster and higher quality. And that usually just didn't work out. It still took just as long.
And it's something that the recent episode of Waypoint Radio, which I recommended to you, I think it's
I did listen to it. Yeah.
So he's basically talking about bloat in middle management. Like they're just so like huge budgets.
Totally saw it.
Right.
On a smaller scale at PodCap, but because they just were somewhat smaller teams, but still quite a bit bloated from the 6 to 10 person max teams we had before EA.
Right. Well, it's something that I see in at my college specifically, but in education broadly, that like the dean level, the chair level, like there's a lot of bloat there. There's a lot of VPs. Like
yes,
they're trying to put those people in to manage everyone else, and it becomes too unwieldy. Like it's better without that much bloat. And we're not hiring teachers; we're hiring middle managers, and that's just antithetical to what we're doing.
Yeah.
But to kind of finish up my point earlier, like there's just there's more games I didn't like. Divinity Original Sin 2, just tons of different single player experiences this year that make me think, I think at the AAA level, single player experiences are going to be changing to incorporate something like Shadow of War, where they put those things in that are at the edges of the game that don't really impact the game too much, but there's enough there for the whales who want to buy that stuff. But I don't know. I don't see AAA single player experiences dying.
No, they're going to die. Changing. You'll just be changing, and you'll see probably less of them in some ways. Like, don't expect anything out of EA or Activision. Fine. Okay, they've clearly already moved on from them overall.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, you'll see it coming out of places like Bethesda. I don't think Bethesda's gonna like mess with their Elder Scrolls or Fallout franchises too heavily there. I mean, maybe they I could see them experimenting into like a connected Fallout game.
Yeah.
Like, I would not be surprised if they try that in the future. Why not? Like,
I just wish that Bethesda, I think it's...
but they're making Wolf, New Colossus.
Right, Wolf 2.
Wolf 2 New Colossus, which is very single-player focused. At least all their marketing is focusing on the single-player a lot.
Well, and then Bethesda also published Prey, Dishonored 2, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, but they had that policy where they're not sending out review codes, and I feel like those games were just kind of like left out there to die, and I think that the word on the street is that they underperformed, but I think there wasn't a ton of marketing behind them, perhaps.
Yeah.
So it looks like, these single-player experiences people don't want, but at the same time, there wasn't a big push behind them, so I'm not sure if they found their audience.
But you see great, like, let's talk about big sellers on, of course, back to the PS4. Like you brought up, Nier has sold incredibly well. Persona 5 did great. The Nintendo stuff, Breath of the Wild did incredible. Like, it's a Zelda game.
Odyssey's about to do incredible.
Yep. Like, in some ways, people will still gravitate to good games. That can break certain marketing trends. And like, forget Mario and Zelda. Like, they have ingrained into our culture that we love those games and those characters and we know who they are. But Persona 5 doing as well as it's done in the West, what the hell? Like, that has no big traction there. Like, it just came out of nowhere and people were like, oh, this is really good, and word of mouth got that thing going. It kind of the same way The Witcher 3 did so well compared to how 1 and 2 did. Like, these games, and Witcher 3 is a great example. Here's a sprawling single-player game. Just enormous. And I've been watching the no-clip documentary things on YouTube, and they've been just going through different things, and you're like, I have no clue. I mean, this is a huge risk for that company. Did really well for them, but it had a very large budget.
Well, and I think...
Well, large for them. Cheaper because of where they are in
That's exactly
in
what I was
Poland.
going to point
like
out. They
can...
Exactly. Well, and, there's been a couple stories recently from CD Projekt Red about how their work environment is pretty rough. They expect a lot out of their workers, and they're not exactly getting paid great, or they should be getting paid better.
Yes.
And relative to what the company's pulling in from The Witcher. So, but, Witcher is a huge game, and then the 2 expansions were just as massive, right?
Yep.
So,
and the 16 free pieces of deal. I mean, if you want to talk about how they kept people engaged, they made a massive game. Then they gave out the 16 pieces of DLC. Like, was it every week originally? How often did they give those out? Every week?
It was every couple. I thought it was every couple of weeks, but
basically they just kept a stream of things for people to come back to.
And they weren't even that big of things, but they were enough for people to get excited.
They were free.
Yes,
and it came back, which is all enough. It takes.
Yeah.
Give me something free. Don't make me buy it. Here's this free thing. It kept people engaged in the game, and then do big expansions when necessary. Like, I could see more. I would hope more developers might go down that route if they're focusing on single player stuff. That's like, hey, why don't we just give a reason for a player to re-engage with our game every 2 weeks?
Well, and I think the payoff for that, and I think Witcher is a great example of this, is by doing that, people kept talking about it, and other people kept hearing. Like, when you heard about that game enough times, people were like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And to be honest, if you've never given it a shot, right now on PSN, it's $20 for the digital complete edition. Like, just that's
so much game. So much game for $20.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's well worth it. So I think you're totally right, because it just keeps it in people's minds. And then, a game like Prey, for example, came out. Some people liked it, some people didn't like it, and there wasn't enough stuff coming out for people to keep talking about it. So I think a lot of people have forgotten about that game.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of people, fans of System Shock, kind of talk about it in the same way, which is for a certain niche player or niche group of players, like that keeps it on their lips. But for everyone else, kind of just it's faded away.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard thing there. And I think you're right on your point. Like, there's going to be, I would say, the second level publishers and indies are picking up the slack for single player games. Like, they're not going to go away. Like, you brought up Original Sin 2. I guess it can be played co-op, but there's a completely independent game that's massive and huge, and probably from what I hear and read the reviews, one of the best role-playing games out there ever. So it's not like these experiences won't be available. Designers and developers want to make experiences like that. A lot of us grew up with experiences like that. That's what we want to do. So,
well, and it's just the way that the market is set up. If there's not enough supply, but there is demand, someone else is going to come in and fill it. Like, look at Cuphead. Like the experience that Cuphead gave, something that other people weren't giving, so people flocked to it. And also, I think that speaks to expectations. Like the Cuphead developers or Microsoft, whatever, expectations were, I think, in check. So when they sold 1 million, they're just like, whoa, this is amazing, So
yeah, and
I think sorry,
that's really important.
Yeah, and I think companies, I think famously Square, perhaps, and maybe it was with Tomb Raider, I can't remember, but they just seem to set such high expectations.
Yeah, it was the original Tomb Raider. Like it sold like 3 million copies originally before even having like a Game of the Year, but that wasn't enough.
Exactly.
And I'm like, what the hell? How can you say you sold 3 million copies at $60 and you didn't think that was going to be enough?
Right. That's exactly my point. Is saying keeping expectations in check. Where I feel like I don't know the budget, but it feels like selling initially 3 million copies might recoup most of your budget.
Well, I mean, they're going to lose a certain $60 at 3 million. How much would they? They'd probably take home about.
What was that?
50% of that, because
I see.
But it'd be like 90 million, which is still probably more than, because that budget of that, I mean, that was years ago, so I would think that budget was probably like a $50 million game.
Okay,
40, so 50, but then they had marketing on top of that.
Yeah,
so
it
was probably very narrow. Like it probably just made back its money, or was just a few million below. Like I know it's made back money now. Like after they had like Game of the Year editions, and it came out to the PS4 and things like that. But still, like, I mean, that's how it works. Like when you start talking about budgets of $50+ million, you have to sell a shit ton of games.
Yeah, and there's a story this week. I think Resident Evil 7 just hit their sales target, which was like 6 million or something like that.
Holy crap!
Yeah, so that was their original target. That's what they wanted to. I don't know if it was to make their money back or just that's what they wanted in general for some whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's realistic or not with how many PS4s there are out there. But horror is such a niche genre that I'm surprised at 6 million, because I think Uncharted sold 6 or 7 million. Uncharted 4, I should say. So I'm not exactly sure how much it sold, but yeah, I think it's expectations. And I think also just. I don't know if it's like reactionary, like all this news comes out, and it is upsetting. I don't know if you saw the Penny Arcade strip on it.
I did see that. They were angry.
Yeah, I liked how it said, this strip doesn't have any punchline, it just has punches.
Yeah, so pretty much.
I understand people reacting quickly, or I don't know, just very strongly to this, especially with EA. Okay, in the wake of Andromeda and then this happening, and EA's reaction is to close down the studio, like close down Edmonton and then close down Visceral. Like
Edmonton. They didn't close down Edmonton. Montreal.
Oh, Montreal. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Edmonton. The original BioWare still exists. They're
so
making
I guess I wanted
Anthem.
to ask you. I wanted to get your opinion, or from your experience, like why shut down the whole studio when one game kind of goes awry?
Cost. Why? In some ways, there's enough people at that company that they don't want to keep around.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an easy way to just be like, jettison the whole thing, cut costs. So EA Vancouver, I don't know which studio in Vancouver it is, but EA has a couple studios in Vancouver. Right. At least they did. They may have consolidated them over the years, but they're the people that did Garden Warfare and Garden Warfare 2.
Uh-huh.
Like, we worked directly with them for PvZ stuff. So,
right.
Or at least a studio in Vancouver. That's what I said. I don't know. Maybe it's a different team now, but it wouldn't surprise me that it's that studio doing it, because they have experience with Frostbite, because Garden Warfare was on it. Third person.
Right. Mm.
Even though, so I would not be shocked if that's the team that they're putting on it. Mm-hmm. But they just don't, they're like, why are we going to keep this other office open? Basically, we don't have enough. We don't want to give them anything else.
Yeah,
It's
okay, that makes sense.
basically
Like,
it's basically a they have no faith in that company anymore.
right, they lost confidence in them.
Yep, vote of no confidence, and at least with enough of the company, I'm sure good people they will try to keep.
Well, that's what they said. They're going to move as many people as they can.
They always say that.
Which,
that's just
ask you
all
that.
this stuff is just PR. Like actually, the Penny Arcade where he's taught, they call it rhetorical salad bar. I mean, all the stuff Sutherland said is just completely, for the most part, meant for investors. What really happened? I mean, that's what you would hope, that there would be a sequel to Jason Schreier's book that would have some stuff on this in it. You'll hear years later about like what actually happened, and it's like, well, talk to the team, because one thing with these public companies, they're not going to be completely upfront about why that they're closing. They want to make it look as good to investors as they can. Even though EA stock tanked 5%. It tanked.
Oh, yeah.
It was not 5%. $5. It lost $5.
Oh, wow.
The day after this broke.
Right. Well, Schreier, he said, like, people are saying that this is, because of the single player and they want to go Destiny 2. He's like, that's not what I'm hearing. It's just that what they're saying, what Sutherland is saying right now sounds better to investors than this was a fucking mess,
Yep.
So, yeah. And,
vote of no confidence.
Exactly. Visceral Studios did Dead Space, obviously. But before this game, the last game was Battlefield Hardline, which was not received very well, or at least was not commercially, successful.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the Dead Space games sold worse each one. Like, the best selling was the first one.
Well, people did not like 3. Like, yeah. I think
2
1 and
may
2
have
were regarded,
sold better than 1, but 3 I know did not sell well.
Right. Well, and 3 is one of the first ones to introduce microtransactions. It was that in Mass Effect 3, apparently. I think we listened to that podcast that mentioned that. So, I don't know what Visceral, I think Visceral, for a lot of gamers, is just the nostalgia of the Dead Space games.
Yeah.
But they haven't done anything great. Not great, but they haven't done anything that people have really
They've been kind
on.
of just been
like a support studio or something.
Yeah. Basically got moved to, after Dead Space 3, they just got moved into a support role.
So what do you think happens to Hennig?
If I'm her, she's going to leave. Why the hell would she want to stay around? Like, I think they might want to try to keep her on somewhere, but I don't see why she would choose to stay. Like, she wants to make single player games, linear storytelling. Like, this is not the studio for her then. And I'm sure there are other companies that would rather have her for their games. So, you have to believe that she is prime for leaving on her own or being poached by another company.
Yeah, I wonder if they said to her, hey, you want to stick around to turn this project into this Destiny Star Wars experience? She's like, no.
I do have to find it. She had a quote when she joined the team about this exact situation happening.
Really?
Yeah, about how she didn't want this. Like, that her worry is that it would turn into, having to work on some grand thing that isn't a single play, like a very story-focused game.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're
being
getting.
chewed up by the EA machine or something like that was her words.
Well, I think that's happened to, obviously PopCap and other places as well.
PopCap's still around, kind of.
But, haven't they been chewed up by EA?
Yeah.
Even though they're still
they're so less people than they, EA is not a place that treats its company, and it's not like they want to screw things up, it just kind of happens. I don't think anyone there understands. They care about the return of investment. And
exactly. They're beholden to their stockholders.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
Yeah.
It's business. It's a business. And that's, and microtransactions and all these things wouldn't be happening if people didn't buy them, And the Activision patent that came up where it's we're going to match marquee players with junior players, so that the junior players see what the marquee players are using and want to buy that stuff in microtransactions, kind of feeds into that.
Yeah.
Because I know people will, a certain percentage will buy them, and that's enough to float it. So just gross. It makes me not want to buy an Activision game ever again.
Yeah. I have a hard time with that only because they have Blizzard, and I would totally buy another Blizzard game. So
yeah,
I have a hard time.
I think I think I can hold the line until Diablo 4 comes out.
Yeah, probably. I'm not going to go back to WoW
Yeah. Overwatch is good, but I've already bought that, so.
Yeah.
And I do not buy microtransactions. I have never bought. I haven't spent a penny since I bought
Again,
the game.
Overwatches are so mundane. They're like, here, have skins if you want them. Like, they're so... I get why they're there, and I'm sure some people really, really want that stuff, but it doesn't really affect your enjoyment of playing the game. Like, the game's the game. You don't have to pay money to get better at the game. I guess people just want Witch Mercy.
Yeah, they keep... I got to get back in and play that game, because I want to try out the new Mercy balance, but then I guess there's some Halloween skate.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Halloween
I'm probably not
going
to get any. Yeah, because it's smart of them to do like this limited time thing. So then if you don't get what you want, you're like, well, I better buy some loot boxes because I won't be able to get the skin after a certain date or whatever. But as long as it's cosmetic, whatever, I don't care.
We'll see. BlizzCon is a week and a half away.
Yeah, I'd say pretty soon.
And let's see. I doubt there'll be any Diablo news, but I cross my fingers hoping.
They already said there wouldn't be.
Yeah.
So unless they're
faking everybody out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I wonder if they're going to mention anything about like Overwatch, PUBG kind of, or a battle royale kind of thing.
We'll see what they announce.
The scuttlebutt. Yeah,
I could see that. I'm interested what they would do with that. I was talking to another designer friend, and he did bring up, like, sure, you could do something like that with Overwatch, but the one thing that like PUBG and Fortnite have is like different weapons you collect and like items and things like that. And Overwatch doesn't really have that. Like, you play as a character, what do? You run around the map and unlock different parts of your character. Like, it doesn't translate as well to the current Battle Royale mode.
Yeah, you're right, because it's about running and finding weapons.
Yeah, it's finding gear and making do with what you have, and Overwatch is so much about like those cool characters and their cool abilities and things like that. So,
that's
maybe they won't chase. Maybe they won't even try to chase that. Like, maybe they'll just do a bigger like free-for-all maps or something. That could be insane. But we'll see what that comes down to. I'm sure BlizzCon will have a news on World of Warcraft, Overwatch news. What else would they do? Hearthstone. They do a Hearthstone. Yeah. There'll probably be an expansion announced. But I mean, big announcements? They usually have something.
Yeah, I'm racking my brain to think what that would be. Like a Heroes of the Storm? No. StarCraft?
It could be some more StarCraft stuff. It could be, would they do a Warcraft 4? They could, if the RTS team wants to be doing it.
That'd be crazy if they came out with that. That would be a big one.
That would be a big one. Is that what people want to be playing right now? I don't know.
Yeah, I just feel like the gamer pool is so diverse now. Like, I feel like games are just reaching out further and further, that there's an audience for basically anything.
There is.
It just depends on how big that pool is for that game.
The RTS pool is not the biggest.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But if like we said earlier, if your budget's in line and your expectations are in line, you can probably make some money. And
that's one thing.
I think you're right, though. It's about the return on investment. Like, the bigger, the better.
And that's the one thing. Blizzard actually keeps their teams pretty small in comparison. Like, we're talking about Hearthstone team being 40 people whenever it was being made, 30, 40, and kept its budget. It was lean. They were working hard on that thing, and it's paid out really well for them. So,
sure paid off.
Their teams have always been. They try to keep their teams as small as possible, really, most of the times.
That works pretty well.
Which keeps their budgets down, keeps it so that they can adapt quickly if they need to change things. Like, that's one thing that
keeps things from being unwieldy.
Yeah. So, I don't know. With all this visceral stuff and the death of the single player is not dead. It's just going to be different in AAA. And if you want single player, you're going to still be able to find it. And you're going to be able to find quality stuff.
And I was thinking about today, for people who haven't, for hardcore gamers, you probably played all the games, but like, stop at the end of 2017, never play another new game again, and go backwards and play games. Like, I think there's just so much to still play that we haven't played. Like, I know that you play a lot more games than I do, but I still think there are single player games that you haven't played yet.
Oh, there's still a ton. I still have your Syndicate disc. I need to play that.
Yes. Last of Us.
Last of Us, I need to play that. There's a bunch of games that I'm just like, oh yeah, I should be playing that.
Right.
But you only have so much time, especially as an adult doing job and kids.
Yep.
it takes a while to get through games now. I don't.
Well, and
like the only reason I got through Persona 5 when I did is because I had a week at home alone.
Right.
Like,
right.
My kids and family were gone. I basically played half of that game in like 3 days because I just woke up, sat down, and played until midnight.
Well, and there are gamers that's kind of how they play, like constantly.
I used to play like that.
Right.
That was not a thing that would be a weekend for me.
Right. Well, and you get through a lot of content that way, but for where we're at in our lives now, like the amount of games that came out in 2017, just those games alone could sustain me for years.
Yep.
You know. So, and I have much more to pull from on several different systems with my Steam backlog and whatever else. So, if I never buy another game again, I have enough to play for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's shocking how much there is, and that's why I don't worry like that the games that I like are going to go away.
Right.
That it hasn't happened yet, and as the Waypoint thing, Manveer Air said on there that every 10 years, and he's right, every 10 years it seems people like, oh god, the linear single player story games are dead. They're not.
I love that. Yeah.
They just goes in a cycle. Like the whole gaming industry is very cyclical. Like certain genres are popular at certain times and they fade and they come back. It's just how it goes. And it's okay. I'm not worried. So. Yeah.
Well, and there are, look at Battlefront 2 or even Madden 18 or FIFA 18. Like there are short single player experiences in those games, the campaigns.
Yeah.
So, plus the indie games, like What Remains of Edith Finch this year, or even Sexy Brutale, or Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade.
Hellblade I've heard good things about in that regard.
Yeah. I picked that up when they were doing the donation to the mental health.
Nice.
So I want to get to that before our Game of the Year deliberations, because that might be in contention. Although I feel like my whole top 5 are like Nintendo games plus Naughty Dog right now.
And really, is that a bad thing? Not really.
What a great year. What a great year. Oh, speaking of games, there's a single player experience coming out for PS4 next week. You might have heard of this game. It's called Slayaway Camp.
It is coming out, yeah. For Halloween, cool. I didn't learn about this until about a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the team that makes that is in Vancouver Island area. So they just brought it up in our communal Slack going like, oh, hey, this is happening too. We're like, oh, well, that's cool.
So is it the same game or is it plus more content?
It has all the DLC content.
Okay.
Because there's been a couple DLC packs. So it includes that, and it includes all of the new killers. For people who don't know, Slayaway Camp is what's the line that they use? A killer puzzle game. Where basically it's mocking 80s horror movies where you slide a killer around on a gridded map trying to murder different people. I think for iOS, they actually had to make it so you weren't killing teenagers. Like, Apple said no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Apple was like, no.
Oh, okay.
So they had to go back and, they put facial hair on the block characters so that they're not teenagers, and they removed any reference to teenagers and kids.
Oh, man.
Do
you know what the price point is?
I think it's probably going to be reasonably cheap. $10 maybe? 5, 10? I can't see it.
Oh, on PSN?
I bet I don't know what it is on PSN. Because on Steam, it's like 5 at most.
Oh, yeah, it's cheap on PSN. Or on Steam. Because I'm probably going to double dip because those trophies are just too alluring.
Yeah, I don't actually know how much it's going to be. I don't.
Yeah.
It's the same way PopCap used to work, Jason Kapalka, the owner, which is the pricing will be matched to what the pricing fits that market. Right, so if you wanted the cheapest way to get it would probably be on Android or iOS.
Right.
It'll be like $3. Right. But you're getting an iOS Android experience if that's what you want.
Right. I imagine it's going to be $15 to $20. That's my guess.
Maybe. It actually might try to match somewhat like however much the Steam cost is.
Which I mean, that's like an insta buy if it's $10. Like, that's for sure.
I mean, it would be that plus like whatever the DLC added on to it. I mean, Slay Away Camp. So on Steam, Slay Away is $9 normal. With all of the bundled stuff, it's $14. So it's going to be probably $15.
Right.
So
that's what I'm thinking too. It's going to be $15.
Yeah, because it's the base game plus
cut game.
Yep. Oh, it's so ridiculous. And actually, my game, Space Tyrant, has a Halloween update coming next week.
Oh, nice.
Will come on Tuesday, and we're actually putting some of the Slay Away killers into Space Tyrant and putting a new a Jacko planet, the big giant pumpkin planet, for a limited time that has just some special content. So
that's fun. I love that kind of stuff.
And our game, there you go, single player game.
Yep.
It's not a story game, but it's one time buy. There you go. Enjoy.
Right. No loot boxes?
No loot boxes. I think we make fun of loot boxes somewhere in the game. Pretty sure.
Oh yeah, you've got a. I'm looking at the PlayStation blog here. There's a blog post from the end of September about Slay Away Camp, written by Nate Schmold.
Yep, Nate's the main designer, artist of it. Does some programming, but not. There's another developer on it. So, but yeah, he's like the person that pretty much runs the ship on it.
Right.
So yeah, Nate's awesome.
Cool. So maybe we can transition into what we have been playing. And I'll start because mine are mainly games I've been talking about previously. Nothing too new. I finished Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. And just from beginning to end, that game was rad. The difficulty I felt ramped up pretty well. It never got too difficult. I think some other people were felt like it got pretty difficult at the end, but it stayed pretty reasonable for me at least. There was some frustration with one of the worlds where it was kind of hard to figure out where to go, but because of the camera, it's not really like a free roam camera, so it's hard to sometimes see. But just difficulty kind of matched where I was at, and it was always engaging. It was just like playing chess with you start out against someone who's not very good, and then you slowly ramp up to a better person and a better player. Just that's what it felt like the entire time. And then the DLC actually just dropped. I haven't played any of it yet, but there's a bunch of ultra hard challenge maps, and I still haven't finished all the actual challenges in the game. I did half of them, so I'm probably 75% toward 100% completion. But I wanted to finish that game and move on to Samus Returns. But it's I don't know when you're getting your Switch. Sooner than later, I guess, huh?
Hopefully.
Oh, you ordered that one. You ordered the Mario bundle. Okay,
we'll see. We'll see what Amazon tells me.
Oh God, yeah,
I know.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Did you get your SNES Classic yet?
I did.
You did?
It arrived.
No.
I'm selling it to a friend. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, I'm giving it to him. Yeah, it came Thursday.
Nice.
Finally.
Yeah, I sold one of mine to my friend today. So I still have one more to sell or to do something with. So anyway, so Mario Rabbids, which is just killer, and looking forward to the story content coming later. The one thing I didn't like about the game is that it introduced characters throughout the campaign. So by the time I got Yoshi, it was 3/4, 5/6 of the way through the game. So I didn't really have time to get to use him or get to know him. But I can go back to the old challenges and try him out. And then I popped over to on PS4. I started playing the DLC for Shadow of Mordor, which came out in February 2015. I never played it. It's just a 3-hour campaign where you play as Celebrimbor. It's like a prequel to Shadow of Mordor, basically. So that's kind of scratching my itch for Shadow of War, because I've just literally 50 times just been hovering over the purchase button, just have not. And I think having Gamefly has helped me stay away from buying it, even though I still have not received that game from Gamefly. They send me everything else on my list except for Shadow of War, which is fine because I'm getting Fire Emblem Warriors on Monday, which
that's cool.
I'm looking way forward to, and it'll give me a chance to try it out, and if I like it, then I'll probably buy it eventually. But the reviews are basically in line with what I expect, kind of like Hyrule Warriors, but with Fire Emblem. So
yeah,
sounds pretty good. And then, so anyway, the DLC is kind of repetitive. You kind of do the same thing over and over again, which makes me realize that's probably what I'm gonna do with Shadow of War anyway. So I can wait a little bit on that. I'm hoping for some Black Friday deals. I'm gonna hold off on Shadow of War. I'm gonna hold off on Assassin's Creed oh my God, Assassin's Creed Origins and some other games. So maybe I can usually do like a 2 for $3 or something like that. So
actually, those games seem ripe for Black Friday deals.
Exactly. So that I'm happy that I have some self-control finally, that I'm just waiting. And then I started up on Samus Returns. I started off, I think I'd gone like only 30 minutes before just to check out what the game was about, but I think I'm about 4 hours into it now. Really, I'm understanding the systems. I'm understanding the exploration part. Like I'm getting into it finally, and it's just so good. It is really good. Like when I finish this game, like it's probably going to be in my top 5. Like it's just so fun.
I'm pretty sure it is in mine. Like, it's good. It is exactly the type of Metroid game I've been wanting for a long time. And hopefully it's done well enough that we get more. That's all I want. I just want more.
Well, you heard it charted NPD. It got 8th last month on NPD. So
nice.
So it's definitely selling.
Yeah.
It was above, let's see, I think it was 8th. Something else was 7th. Mario Rabbids was 7th. And then Breath of the Wild was 10th.
All single platform games. Nice.
Yeah, right. It's selling well. So I think that bodes well. And if you're looking for, if you particularly are, you've played Axiom Verge, haven't you?
I have not, but I've heard really good things about Axiom Verge. It's always on my list of like, I should play that.
Right.
When I don't have all these other things that I want to be playing.
Exactly. Well, it's on Switch, so if you'll have enough stuff to play on Switch.
Switch, anyway. The indie platform.
Oh my God! I mean, it's just
my Twitter feed is full of people playing Stardew Valley on the Switch. My God, so many people's first time with Stardew Valley is on the Switch.
Their first time.
And they're just like, "Oh my God, this game! Just one more day." And I'm like, "Yep, yes, indeed." And it's portable. That's dangerous. So. I have a number of people that are absolutely in love with that game again. I'm sure I'll get it when I get a Switch. That will be one of the indie ones I put on there. All
right. I mean, how much time did you sink into that on the computer?
I don't even know. 60, 70 hours, something like that.
I mean, I don't think it was for me. I played it on PC and it's not for me. But Golf Story is something I've hesitated buying, and then Axiom Verge, and then Wolverblade. Actually, those are the 3 that I have my eye on. So there's a sale coming up next week. Then I might probably grab one of those if they go on sale. So those are the games that I've been playing. So what have you been playing?
Same thing I have been. Final Fantasy 12. I am pushing in that thing. I am pushing so hard. I have 4 more hunts to do, and I have 1 more Esper to get. I'm level 67 average on my characters. I need to be higher than that,
right?
To finish some of this stuff. I don't know. Like I said before, I'm just in the part of the game that I love that is just pure systems optimization now. Like I'm finding like the ultimate weapons. I'm finding the best spells in the game, and so it's just opening up tons of special, like, new ways for me to tweak my gambits and how I approach encounters, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And the encounters themselves, the hunts at this level, actually become really interesting kind of puzzles to see if you can set yourself up right, because they just change the game. They're like, sorry, you can't use the attack command. Enjoy. Well, how are you going to kill the thing if you can't attack it? So you have to use spells and other alternate ways of dealing damage. And one that I just did cycled through, you can't use attacks for a certain amount of time. Then it was like, you can't use items, then you can't use techniques, then you can't use spells. Then your 8 mana is draining, then your HP is draining. Just a crazy number of things to keep track of. But I kind of feel like I'm at the point in the game where I just have I appreciate it because I feel like I have a mastery over the game. So it's challenging that. Kind of like for what you brought up with Rabbids. I am now at the point in the game is now going like, no, you are tall enough to try these challenges. Go.
Well, that's what I was thinking when you were talking about that, is that when you go back to the challenges in Mario Rabbids, it's like, okay, so here's similar map. You've got 12 enemies. You have one turn to kill them all, or just crazy stuff like that. The new ultra hard challenges are like, you have to escort Toad across this crazy map in 3 turns. Good luck.
Yeah, and it's like, it's doable. You just have to figure out how to do it.
Right, and it twists the game in a way that
Yeah.
just keeps it fresh, which is great.
And that's where I'm
obviously-
in with 12. Like, it's just a point where it's really fresh for me each time I'm going to these other encounters. Like I said, I'm getting close to being done with it. I don't know how much longer I'll play. There is the final hunt, Yzmit, which is probably would take about 50 minutes in the Zodiac Age to fight.
Wow.
So it's insane. It has 51 million point health bars. So
50.
So there's like one health bar that's 1 million hit points, and it has 50 dots under that health bar. And when you deplete one health bar, a dot goes away and the health bar fills again. And you have to, and it does crazy effects for this entire. Like, people expect it will take about 50 minutes. If you can get yourself set up and you can do quadruple time, you'll get it done in about 20. But if you're going quadruple time, you have to be very careful, because you could just wipe before you can react. So I don't know. That's the ultimate, like, one of the ultimate bosses in the game. So I've never done it before. And there's a trophy attached to it. So I'm considering if I want to do it.
Well, I'm looking through your profile on PSN profiles right now. And I can't find Final Fantasy 12 for some reason, but it also says that it says that you only have 29 trophies on Horizon Zero Dawn, which is bullshit. So this must not be updated. But are you, with all this stuff that you're doing, is it going to lead you toward the platinum?
I don't know. I'll get close. There's a couple of the trophies for the platinum that I don't know if I really have the patience for.
Okay.
There's a couple that are very random. So it would just be more of like, do I want to spend the time just hoping this random thing happens? And I don't know. I don't know if I care that much.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, it's that game. I have... What am I looking forward to?
Mario.
Mario. I have to have the Switch first if Amazon will ship that to me.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see. And then Mario. Yeah, Mario's there. It's going to be funny. Assassin's Creed Origins is coming out, and that's probably when I'll play Syndicate. That seems legit. Like, play the previous one before I get the new one.
Well, that's kind of funny, which what I'm doing with the Shadow of Mordor. Like, I want to play that, so I'll play, or Shadow of War, so I'll play the one that I have already. Like, I would do the same thing. Like, if I hadn't played Syndicate yet and I want to play Origins, I'd just go back and play Syndicate, and by the time you're ready for Origins, it'll be cheaper and whatever else.
Yeah.
But man, Syndicate's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't played the Ezio trilogy, but Syndicate's really good. If
it can at least get up into that, like, match those ones, that'd be great, because it's been so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I think my time with Final Fantasy 12 might come to an end, but that game is huge, and
you're like over 100 hours in that game, aren't you?
No, actually, I'm at like 78.
Okay.
Yeah, it feels like I checked. I was like, man, I have to be approaching 100. No, not yet. I'll get there.
Does it have an in-game clock?
It does.
Oh, okay. So when you save or whatever.
Yep. It tells me how long I've been playing.
Right. That makes sense.
So yeah, it's been fun. Mario is next week, isn't it? And Assassin's Creed.
And Wolfenstein 3 or 3,
God.
2. When we talk again, when we record again, we will hopefully both of us will be playing Mario. Who knows with Amazon if they'll send either, because I have my game purchased through Amazon as well. So we'll see if that comes on time. Usually Nintendo stuff
your
does
game will
not.
probably come on time, I bet.
I hope so.
The bundle. And
yeah.
that one's a little bit weird. So
exactly.
We'll see.
Well, I guess this time next week I'll have my Wii U back. So I've been itching to jump back into Super Mario World for some reason, like in anticipation of Odyssey for some, I don't know why. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Play a little bit of that.
It's all boxed up behind me.
Awesome. Thank you. Hope you got your enjoyment out of it.
I did. I got Zelda and some Mario Kart.
Yeah. God, the Mario Kart's so good. I played more a Mario Kart on that system than anything else, and I played like 120 hours of it.
It's a good Mario Kart.
Yeah.
So
really, really good.
That's another game I want on the Switch. I want the DX version.
Yeah. It's phenomenal, especially the battle mode. Battle mode's like worth it by itself. It's so good. So Embarrassment and Riches, lots to play. We're moving into we're in the crazy part of the year. We're just release after release after release. Yeah. So, hope everyone stays afloat, and there's lots to play, but you don't need to buy everything all at the same time. So
no, don't buy everything all at the same time. There will be
sales and all that stuff. Yeah. I think I'm moving into the buy the game if you're going to play it now. Otherwise, just wait.
Yeah, just wait. It will go on sale.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, awesome. I think that wraps it up for tonight.
Yeah, appreciate your time. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
And then he's at SummerSpeak. I'm at Prof Plays Games on Twitter. And we will see you next week when we're hopefully both playing Mario.
I hope so. All right.
Fingers crossed, man.